don't know me here, I'm a very curious person, and I might jump in every once in a while to have you drill
Please,
down a little deeper. Because
definitely.
if I understand it, anybody can. I'm kind of I'm that safety net. If it gets to me, we're all good.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So, uh, why didn't you? How did you get involved? I know you're like all over hospitals around the world, right? So kind of connect the dots for me there, and with your tagline, and let's just start it off and see what goes, man.
Well, the tagline is really simple. It is that you can't change the world unless you change yourself. Doesn't that sound
Oh
familiar?
yeah,
I mean, that's
absolutely.
just the basic. Okay, so what I am a planner, and when I hear AT&T's commercial saying the system is a solution, I say no, 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 no way. You really want to have a plan, and if you have a plan, then you have to implement that plan a little bit at a time. You have to have failure avoidance stuck in there somewhere like a lot so
Yeah,
that you don't
of course.
fail at any, it's the train, the train's got to stay on the tracks. And so I've got at the very bottom of my book, the process is the solution. It's not the system. The system is where you want to be at the end of a nice long process that will hopefully end you up with the type of system that you really want. So what my
Interesting.
career was a healthcare planner, and I did a lot of planning. First, records management in hospitals, so I'd look at all the records throughout a hospital and figure out how to organize it. And then I looked at the human element in the hospital, and I reorganized departments. And then I'd end up designing hospitals and clinics literally all
Oh
over the world.
wow.
It was just because
Wow.
the
What does that planning look like? Like, do you have a procedure, or is it one off? Whatever that hospital is, or that hospital, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I'll tell you, I hope that your people are sitting there with their notepad and pen because this is
Oh
very
wait, wait, wait.
important.
All right.
This is a very
There's another
important
question coming
procedure.
up.
And the procedure is listen. You have to
Ah,
listen,
I
observe,
can.
see what's going
You
on.
got two
And
ears and one mouth, right?
but what's important is what comes into the old sensorium here. And that's where you're going to have to say, now, what tools might be good to get us there, but I don't know. Here's an example. I was invited to Myanmar by the government, Aung San Suu Kyi and her government, to come on
Wow,
over
that's cool.
and design a hospital and build a hospital in their new democracy. And I went on over there. They didn't need a hospital. I looked around. I went out to the rural area. This is a big country, as big as Germany and Italy combined, and most of it is
Yeah,
rural. Most of it's just uh, rural. I mean, no
empty.
roads or anything, and just dirt
Yeah.
paths. And the monsoon comes and wipes those out, and then they have to make a
Oh,
new
those
path.
are
And
horrible, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. So,
Oh my God.
but wonderful, beautiful people, absolutely, just like the food. Great food. Anyway, so I go over there and find out that they don't need a hospital. And I'm in the rural area saying, well, what you need is a clinic. And then I just listen and I realize that it's not just the clinic that they need. These people need a uh, mobile health van. They need to be able to drive to these villages. The doctors and nurses need to drive to the villages.
A
And
mobile hospital of
a
sorts,
mobile
right?
a mobile clinic.
Yeah,
I mean, these people, they show up at the
yeah.
clinic, and I mean, one of the things I saw, but they had a card table out with a whole bunch of pills on it, and these patients in this village were coming in, and the doctor would look at them and talk to them. And one lady, they gave her one of those little capsules that have medicine in them. So she just shook it all out. You're supposed to take it, and swallow, right? But she didn't. She took it
Hmm.
all out and then she took all that stuff and put it all over her face.
Huh.
It
Really?
it was like it was like
Because
any
she didn't know any better, or was it a
no
div?
no no. I mean, it's like she didn't know any better. We didn't know enough to say, oh, wait a minute, she's never
Wait.
seen a pill before. She's never seen a capsule
Yeah,
before. And it's like
yeah.
so you have to really start where they're at. You can't just You can't just say, "Oh, I'm an American and I know the answers and look what's happening to our country." Forget it. That's just not.
Oh my God,
You got to
yes.
start from the beginning, and the beginning is where they are. Now, here we are in a country where we don't really know where we are, so it's kind of difficult to do anything in a country if you've got that mindset. And that's the reason why a lot of NGOs failed. Well, I
Yep.
failed more than anybody else with Kaiser Foundation International outside the country. I was doing all sorts of planning and
Is that
designing and
like Kaiser Hospital? Is that the same
yeah,
Kaiser?
it was started by the
I used to
family.
go there. That
Yeah, no, I
was
love. I
named
mean,
after the a river in Oregon, wasn't it? The Kaiser River. Wasn't that
it's
where that name came from?
well, not I don't know about that. I just know that it's the Kaiser family, and I ended up playing guitars with Henry Kaiser, and two of my mentors were the guys who started the health plan, Sid Garfield and Maury Collin. So
Oh wow. Oh
it's
wow.
yeah, I have I've had a
That's a big deal.
very wonderful and fortunate career. It's mind-boggling. So
Yeah. No, no doubt. Anytime you want to trade, I'll kind of jump in there for a little bit and walk in your shoes and have some fun. That's whoa, we just got a big jump of people. I was wondering where everybody was. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, fascinating stuff. It's really interesting how much you've crossed the globe in spreading this and doing this and giving this information out.
mm,
That's quite an accomplishment. Before you answer that or respond to it or whatever, fascinating perspective, Jeffrey. What indicators suggest we're still in a suspended human evolution?
well,
Kind of
first, okay.
expanding on what you've been talking about.
Okay, first of all, I was in Myanmar. We were going to build 250 more clinics because we ended up building clinics. And then, right at the point where we had a prototype that University of Virginia Center for
Oh
Telehealth
wow.
set us helped us get it connected to the world. A tiny little clinic that's out in the middle of nowhere. We were going to build 250 more, and the military came in and overthrew the government and kicked us out. So that took care of that. I went home in California and I wrote a book. And the book is To Care for Peace, What It Means to Care for Peace, and how we can look at what we do to
Is
get to
that
the
the
second,
title? What you just said? Was that the title of the book?
yes, to care for peace. It's a global
To care for
mandate.
peace. Gotcha.
It's a global mandate to secure the second human evolution in perpetuity. Now, there's three stages of human evolution, in my opinion. Okay, I'm making this up because I got on the internet, and sure enough, somebody's got 7 stages of human evolution, and they've got
Oh, it's
the
all over the
the
place. Yeah.
the what is it? The Holocene, which is geographic, it's geologic, and then you've got the Anthropocene, which is an attempt to say, look, guys, we are changing the geology, and we are designing our own uh, demise,
What
and
are
that's
those
not
two
where I'm
different
at.
terms you just said? What are those two different
Oh,
terms you just said?
Holocene and Anthropocene,
Yes.
or Anthropocene, I
Yes.
don't know. About the Holocene is just a period that it is a mini
Period of
epoch.
time.
Yeah, it's like the Pleistocene, and it's
Oh.
part of the Pleistocene.
Oh.
It's the most recent one in which humans do exist in that period, but it's it's just like Jurassic. I mean, it's like the Holocene is
True.
embedded in that whole strain of geologic explanations. Now, the
Hey,
Anthropocene, excuse me,
re- remember something real quick. Earlier, what I told you, I'm going to ask you some questions because if I understand it, everybody else will, right?
please,
Um,
please.
so you are one of the most educated people I've ever talked to, right? So, well, you don't know that, but I do. And from that, some of the terminology that you have is interesting because I'm learning more. If you talk, you're gonna uh, you're gonna display your knowledge on whatever. If you listen, you get the opportunity to learn something new. So I'm gonna pester you about these terminologies
Yeah,
because I want to
please.
be a little smarter. Oh shit, we just got a whole bunch of people. Go ahead.
Oh, no, 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 that's Pester away. Interrupt all you want. This is not a classroom. This is an opportunity
That's
for us to talk, which is
to
the most
talk and
important.
learn.
Well, it's the most important part of planning. I'm a planner. This is a period called pre-planning, and pre-planning, there's the term that needs to be used more often by you because you're the leader of this new movement here. And
Ah,
pre-planning is the process of talking and listening and sharing ideas, not bringing your bloody opinions in. This is not opinions. This is fact-based issues that you're talking about. What do we do about this? What do we do about that? Well, I believe this. Take that word out. Believe is This is not about believing in anything. This is, what do you know? What do we all know together? Okay? Now, three phases of human evolution, in my opinion, are phase one, the first human evolution that began 2.5 million years ago and ended sometime around the mid 60s when we had, humans basically conquered nature and we had. Let's see, mutually assured destruction. The French came in with their existentialism. We had the Beatles, best part. And we basically,
that's good.
oh, but the peace movement started then too, and that wasn't just an
Oh
American
yeah,
peace movement. It was a global peace movement. I mean, it was a wonderful time, but it's also the end of the first human evolution because the first human evolution was kill for peace. It was you had the survival of the fittest being the
yep,
might is right period. Okay, so we are
yep.
now in what I call the suspended human evolution, where we are still living with the detritus of the first human evolution, and we have Trump-inspired attitudes, values, attitudes, and goals that are so first human evolution that we got to do something to get rid of that. And what we do is we talk about it, we think about it, we share our ideas about it, and then we pick up pen and pencil and we start to plan. And we have to plan the second human evolution. It's not going to just drop in our laps. For 2.5 million years, we fought, we beat people up, we killed people. Our definition of history is books and books about the pogroms, the wars, the conquests, and everything else. That's not the history that we need to design for the second human evolution. The second human evolution has to be care for peace. It has to be based on, remember, what we are, what we feel. It's got to start with us. And that's where we have to start with the Care for Peace idea, which is the title of my book, To Care for Peace. And then if we bring that, all of us, to the table, we will be able to then share the tools that we need to use to plan the second human evolution.
That is awesome. That's a really awesome perspective. I was talking to a rabbi yesterday on yesterday's show, and he was talking about, and I was kind of questioning him, uh, uh, but he said there'll be a day where all of a sudden the lion and the lamb will lay together. The opposites will get along, and then that's that next evolution. I mean, are you alluding to any of that? I mean, I like
No,
different perspectives, so I can. Okay, go.
no, Lion and Lamb, that's great. When I go to the Louvre or go to the Uffizi Gallery, I see all sorts of pictures of lions sitting down with lambs, and I'm going, no, that's not where we're at,
And
guys.
they,
We
they
got to
gotta
talk
eat.
about reality.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't even get there. I'm interested in reality
dude, hold
and
on a
our
second.
ability.
Hold hold on a second. We just hit a record high. Can you see on your screen? We just hit a record high. The previous high was 1,003 or four, I can't remember. And you are a stud, man. You're lifting 1,000 people. Very cool. Love it.
Hello,
Go ahead.
everybody. Uh, Well, it's reality, and I have no problem with reality because all my career for about 45 years plus, I've been dealing with reality. I go to Curacao, Netherlands Antilles, 40 miles north of Venezuela, okay? And I'm sitting there, and their reality is that
Damn.
they don't have any
Cool
emergency
places.
department. So they say we need a clinic. You know what? They didn't really need a clinic. They needed an urgent care center where a patient could walk in and say, I don't know what I'm feeling, because they didn't even have the terminology to explain what it was that they thought they had. And you know what? I remember being a kid and having this awful feeling coming up from my stomach that was kind of burning my throat. I didn't know what
Wow.
heartburn was. And I couldn't describe it. So it took about 10 years for a doctor to suddenly realize, oh, you got heartburn. Okay, call it whatever you want. I want to get rid of that. And that's
That
the
is
people that I
funny.
go, that all over the world. You got to start with where people are at, and you got to understand how to listen to people where they're at. And that means right
I'm
here in
with you,
America, we
brother.
don't have to. I've worked all over the world. Nigeria, Kenya, Bahrain and the Persian Gulf. Great experience. Lived there
Mm,
for a year
yeah.
helping Kaiser. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I have learned is that there is so much I don't know. It's like, it's wonderful. You have to love learning. And if you don't, then just shut up. Then you'll learn. And you'll love how to learn. It's just
Yeah,
great,
because you'll be listening and learning,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
It's great stuff. Great
You
stuff. So I'm
shut up.
still. So here goes. Watch this.
Look at this. We this is exactly the kind of conversation we need. Great point there. I'm going to pull up another one here. What major challenges do you foresee in the uniting humanity order with one global? I mean, you of anybody, because you have a global perspective from the management style, but like you said, you're a preparer. How do you think that plays out?
Right. I love the question because it leads me into an answer that I was hoping I'd be able to bring in. And that is, I am starting
Nailed it.
a,
Boom.
yeah, exactly. I'm starting, with all my free time, ha ha, I'm starting
Right.
a new political party. And the party is the Global American Party, the Global American Party. And the idea is to get the people who are the middle of the road folks from Republicans and independents and
The center.
Democrats and bring them together to discuss the second human evolution and how we can propel it as Americans. Because one thing I know, and that is
I'm all over that,
Americans
man.
have Americans are real smart. So are the Brits. I love the Brits.
Oh,
Anybody who loves using their brain anywhere. I mean, some of the most brilliant people I ever met were like in these countries that you didn't think there'd be a brilliant person, and they are. And so
oh
the
yeah.
Global American Party. I just wrote an article that got published, and it says, my dream is for all the children everywhere in the world to say their Pledge of Allegiance to one global nation. Huh? And
Wow.
so I love the
How
question
would that work?
because,
Who would I mean, there'd be like every nation is a state is kind of what
oh
you're
yeah,
just the imagery.
well yeah, and
How would
whatever.
you do that? How would
Well,
it run?
I, I, it has to run as the best nation runs today. And frankly, in my observation, America is running as the best nation could possibly run. And be run. Um, and
Yep.
so the states, I mean, the Constitution is a wonderful, wonderful Constitution. And I think
Absolutely.
that if we could take that Constitution and say, okay, that's information now, put it aside. Now, what is the Constitution of the world? What should we do? We've got a population problem, over militarization, over consumption, overburdening the planet's resources. What do what do we believe? That's not a word I use very often because we have to look ahead at our dreams and how they will unfold. And in that regard, I will use the word believe because we have to be able to latch into that future vision somehow. And we can use the word believe to latch into that future vision. That's where you, Rod, coming to bringing all these people together, the rabbis, you name it, all the people you're talking to, you are leading this charge, not me. I'm a guest. I'm a guest on many different podcasts and television things. And, I say things
Yes.
because I never know what they are. But you're the leading. You can lead this. You can take these terms and work the terms because I don't know if the terms I'm using are the terms that will resonate with the majority of the people. And you started
Good
out
point.
this by well, you're talking about terminology. Thank you, but that might not be the right word. But you'll find the right word. Hey man, we got to be able to talk to everybody in their own language. Nah, let's have one language. It's one of the
One
few
language.
one language. This is one of the few things that I agree
That's a
with Trump.
fascinating
You know,
concept.
it's one language. Come on, that's English is the banking language of the world. So hey, let
Yeah, of
you know.
course.
And when I travel, when I was in
You
Bahrain,
think
the people,
China's going to allow that? They're going to sit on their hind with that going
yeah,
on?
yeah, because the Chinese people that
It'd
I've
be
met
cool.
from China, they all learn English.
Oh,
So
yeah, no, the
and
people are great, but what about the government?
I,
The totalitarianism that's
yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah. You see, I have a
That's
problem.
taking time.
Well, in the book, I talk about something that has been in my heart for a long time about government. Government needs to strive to be as good as the best person it hopes to represent. And if you can, shall I say that again? A government should strive to be as good as the best person it hopes to represent. Okay, so
I cannot agree more, man.
you have to define what best person is. And
What
I've
that
been in
is.
meetings where I throw this out and someone says Jesus Christ, someone says Muhammad. I say, great, thank you. Bring it in. Let's talk. That's why you have to
Yes.
take all these ideas and these belief systems, bring them in. There's nobody, no religion, no organizational thought, constitution that can't come to the table because we've got to design the future based on what we know works or doesn't work or should work or oops, won't do that one again. I mean we've got to design the future. And I think that we can do that if we can at least respect the people for everything that they bring to the table because that's where they can start talking about the issues that they don't own, the issues that we have to own together.
Absolutely. Oh my God. And I'm going to go through a couple of because you covered some pretty good area there. And there's a couple of questions that people were tagging in. I'm going to throw them up on the screen. I try and now this one's a little out of it's what I assume you're going to be talking about, but AI just fascinates me in every aspect of where we as a human being the species is going to evolve, I think, obviously. And
Right.
time's moving
Right.
really fast. So, what do you think about that?
I don't know. Is the question where will human evolution, where will AI fit into human evolution, or is it where human evolution will fit into AI? I mean,
Woo!
it's
Dude, you're playing chess up here, and I'm trying to throw some checkerboards out there.
oh, I've
Good
got a
man. I love
checkerboard.
it. Go on.
I got a checkerboard brain, so don't I can't play chess. Just I'll just throw
Oh,
my
I
king
love
down just
chess.
for you. So it's a great game. I
Let's see
just
what else we got here. We got of culture. That's timely because
oh there's
there's cultures that range all over the
yeah.
country, much less all over the world, right?
Right. Well, I have four templates in the book. I present the four templates, the personal template, the relational template, but the third one is the cultural template. And it's very important because we've got to make sure that we don't make the same mistake that I don't I can't blame Karl Marx for this mistake, but he's pretty much the top guy who came out and said to everyone according to their needs from everyone according to their abilities, which is fine, but there's a spiritual component missing. And so I wanted to make sure that our second human evolution has a physical and a spiritual balance, because everybody has a belief in something. And so we need to take care of their beliefs. When I'm having a planning meeting, I don't use the word belief. But when I'm having a meeting where we're talking about what the future needs to be, we need to make sure that there's a balance between the physical and the spiritual, because the spiritual is the stuff that allows us to care for peace. Care is what we do with our hearts, with our heads. It's what we do with our gut. Peace is not the space between two wars, the time after a war, or sitting up on a mountain and crossing your legs and your arms like the fool on the hill while the people down in the valley are suffering. That's not the peace I'm talking about. The peace I'm talking about is the one that comes from care. Well, I was a hospital corpsman in the United States Coast Guard Reserves. I
Wow.
learned what
Thank you
care
for your
for
service, man.
peace. Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity, because I learned the most important thing. I thought I came up with the idea of care for peace because I was caring for these guys in beds, from the Mekong Delta. And, some of them had snake bites, some of them had shot at, you
Mm.
name it. And, but at the end of the day, I had, they were wonderful guys. They talked to me, they tell me their life story, and unbelievable. I just felt so good. I said, "What is that feeling I have here?" And I realized it's peace. That's what it is. And then when I left the Coast Guard and I started working in hospitals, I found out I wasn't the one who invented that. I'll tell you, every mother in the world knows what it means to care for peace. And oh, every nurse in the world knows what it means to care for peace. And I tell you, it's one of the reasons why I loved working in hospitals and clinics, because the nurses have become my best friends. They are so wonderful. They care for peace.
They're
And
built for
so
caring, right? They're built for caring. That's why they gravitate to that, because they're giving, caring people, right?
we are all built for caring.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. But nurses are a different, in my opinion. I've always experienced that they always they choose that line of work because they
Definitely.
want to give back. I think it
Absolutely.
just the job description
Yeah.
says that. What
Yeah.
about when you? I'm going to bounce around a little bit here, and if you want to go back to what you were
Oh,
saying,
oh,
um,
it's fine.
can we truly achieve global unity when nations struggle with their own internal conflicts? I think that has got to be part of the plan. Take care of
Oh, definitely.
make your bed before you go change the world, right?
Right, right. And all I do, I got to look at Myanmar, because here was Aung San Suu Kyi, wonderful, wonderful woman, changing the all this history of fighting and killing and the military, this and all that, just all the awful stuff that was happening in Myanmar, which, by the way, used to be called Burma. It's the country that's just to the left of
Oh,
Thailand and south of China and east of India. Okay, it's kind of tucked into there. And that was
oh, I remember the
a
name Burma.
yeah, Burma. So it
That's
had
not
all
too far in the history, is it? When that
no,
changed,
no. Well, I mean, it
yeah,
became Myanmar in 1988. So
right.
I
That's recent
it,
history,
so
obviously.
it's pretty recent, So, and you had the Saffron Revolution. You had a whole bunch of stuff happening before Aung San Suu Kyi came in, but that was internal conflict, and so she came in and really helped propel the country towards a democratic universe in her country. And I'll tell you, I was there during that window of opportunity that she created, and
Oh,
then it was like this window that was unbelievable. And this is where I believe that democracy and capitalism working together in one way or the other. And I mean, one way or the other, there's a whole from to when it comes to what this can look like. You can have a, uh, a Finnish or Scandinavian model of government. It works. It works for the people,
it does.
and there's
Yeah,
enough peace to go around. And if you look at governments and how governments work, I would look to the Swiss. My God, they don't have one president. They've got canton representatives. What a great idea! Why aren't we
Yeah.
looking at that? We should be looking at that. This idea of having a president is a joke. It's just this idea,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
The
guy,
Swiss people are amazing too.
it's, they sure are. I worked in Switzerland for
Yeah.
4 months, and I was a ski instructor for children. It was just the greatest thing in the world. Wonderful people.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, that's a different check.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of what you're talking about there is there individual actions that we can take on a large scale? And I think you were talking about the planning. So what is that,
Yes,
in order to become a group, individuals have to come together and do stuff,
yes, yes,
right?
yes. And that's what you're doing. That's what we are doing right now. That is what the people
Yes,
that you're
sir.
talking with, this is your audience who's listening. They need to start coming up with their own words for, okay, we're in this suspended human evolution right now because we don't really know what the hell we're doing. We have our own values, attitudes, and goals that are really honorable. They're noble. They're creative. They're with care and peace in mind, but we still have this selfishness, this nihilism, this all this narcissism that's going on, and all this,
Narcissism. I
and
hear
the
that a lot now.
murder and mayhem going on. Why? Well, what's happening? So, what can we do? So it's this talk that has to happen first, and that's what's happening right now. And the
Hmm.
global podcasters, I'm calling you guys global podcasters, and you're very few, by the way. I, it, if we get more global podcasters, that would be good. But I would want them to be like you, and I would want them to,
What do you mean
get these.
very few? There's a lot of podcasts out there, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah, I have to turn them down all the time because they just aren't global podcasters. Some lady told me,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah,
she's got it.
we do have I've interviewed people in Sweden and the UK, and we have people audiences from those. Germany is probably, I don't know, 12% of our viewership. So it is a global world that we're already living in, with the technology that's there. I like what Brian says. Thank you very much here. Um, uh, Fascinating, must watch, um, must watch, must. Oh my gosh, must watch show. And I agree with him. Don't you?
What? That
We're
that this is
biased,
a
but don't you agree with him?
that this is a deep dive into human evolution. I think is that right? Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, the key is you got to
Oh, I
back
was
up.
talking about Brian. What I was talking about what
What did
Brian
Brian
said,
say?
and then we'll go back to. This is a much watch conversation, and I'm biased, but I totally agree with him. I assume you do too.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate it. Uh, well, I'm living this whole concept, and it's wonderful because here I was a
It
planner
is.
for 45 plus years, and now I want to help people plan the second human evolution because it's not going to plan by itself. We're going to be
No,
status quo, or some president is going to come in and screw up the works, throw a wrench in everything, and that you can't blame
they
Trump for
always
that. The
do.
fact is, he saw a wrench. So he picked it up and threw it. Now, being a planner, I find it very difficult to imagine that a wrecking ball is what you should use to change the government. I think I used to go into hospitals when they are in dire straits and help them survive by merging clerical people in departments, and they loved it because all of a sudden they weren't just in a silo working in the admitting department and then
Yeah,
another silo which is in the registration for the
absolutely.
laboratory or registration for all these different departments. I'd merge them all together, and the employees loved it. And by attrition, we ended up having fewer employees. And then I ended up being able to design a hospital. I think in Mayfield, Kentucky. Mayfield, Kentucky. I can't
Oh, I
remember.
love
Maybe it was,
Kentucky.
but yeah, it was absolutely wonderful project. It was a 2.5 year project, and but to work with
Wow.
the people with the people in the hospital and have them come up with these ideas, okay? I'm not the one who comes up with all these ideas. What I do is say, "Wow, that's a real sweetheart of an idea that you're not going to be bored." You said you were bored the other day. Yeah, I'm talking the same thing. I'm saying the same thing to
Right.
every single patient. Hi, what's your name? Where do you live? What's your telephone number? I don't want to do that. I want to what's your idea? You want me to take that patient and walk them to the laboratory and then stay in the laboratory and then walk them to the radiology department? Oh, and then go up to the nursing unit when they put them to bed? What a great idea. And so they blame me for
That's
this
awesome.
idea. And it wasn't even my idea. It was just that it evolved from discussions with the employees who know what the heck is going on in the hospital. Don't talk to an architect. You know, they
when
are
when they're
wonderful.
talked when they're talked to or questioned, there's a buy-in there too, in there on top of it.
Well, I
increased
guess.
increased
Yeah.
visual of
Yes.
yourself, and then
Yeah.
people, they thought of it, they bought into it, so it's a support
Yes.
from that point. I've always seen that in anyway.
Yeah. Yep. No, totally agree. And but that's got to come from your heart. I just, what, when someone comes up with some idea like that, I say, that was such a good idea. We're going to call this Marcy's Lamps. And so Marcy's Lamps ended up being put on nursing stations and hospitals all over because they
Oh,
couldn't stand. She said, "I hate these fluorescent lights." She says, "I know all those
yep.
clerks in the movies wear a visor hat so that they don't have the fluorescent lights." She says, "Why don't you just put
Oh, wow.
some table lamps up here on the counter?" Oh, so I went to Home Depot and I got, about five or six lamps, that are for your bedside table, and I put them on the counter. And then we had to find electric outlets, and this is before computers were clustering, and every single nursing station was designed by
Also, there probably
for
wasn't a lot of
employees.
outlets, right?
No, there weren't. So,
Wow.
we had to bring
Yeah.
extension cords across the floor and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, and it was Marcy's Lamps. And to this day, I call them Marcy's
Wow.
Lamps. It was just great.
How
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, because it they wouldn't be there if she hadn't come up with the idea. Hi, Mercy, if you're ever out there. Okay, that's cool. Anyway,
Hey, Marcy, what's happening? Stop in sometime, man. Bring one of those
uh,
lamps.
yeah. Uh,
She is
anyway,
it, where was she at? Was that the Kentucky thing you were talking about?
no, 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 no. This was long before. I think it was in Sacramento, at the Sacramento Community Hospital in California. I think so.
Oh,
Friend of
wow.
mine was friend of mine was the administrator, Kathy Pelly, an unbelievable CEO lady, wonderful, wonderful. So no,
That's
I've just
that's
made so
very
many
cool.
friends. This whole thing it's been so easy because my job was to make friends. My job was to because if I make friends, then I get the phone calls from them when I leave saying, "Hey Jeff, I had another idea." That's great. you know, I mean, making friends is
Super.
wonderful. And then when my wife and I were traveling all over the world, I remember getting invited to several parties. Okay, so we're in Curacao in the Netherlands Antilles. We're invited to a party that is on Wednesday night, starting at 10 o'clock. This is a country that is very hot all the time, so the only time you have a
Wow.
party is at 10 o'clock at night. And that darn party went to 3 o'clock in the morning, and all those people were hospital people who had to go to work the next
Dang.
morning.
Oh man,
And I'm
that's
going,
brutal.
yeah, I
That's a
know.
brutal day right there.
So when I walked around that hospital, I didn't ask anybody, "Why are you so lethargic? Are you, why is everybody so tired today?" I knew because
Yeah.
I was tired too.
100%, man. No, I've had those
Ah.
days. They're not fun. But the rest the next night is unbelievable.
Yeah,
That's the only
yeah.
benefit of it,
Touche.
Hey, will technology bridge between the different societies, or widen them? Right
Oh,
now there's different technology
yeah,
leaders. That should all come together, right, under what you're
yeah,
talking about. And then I want to talk to you about people coming over different borders, and there's that whole movement, a mass amount of movement of people into the North America area and into Europe as well. Is that part of this, or is that just a distraction from what becoming a global country is.
Oh no, I thank you. I I mean the answer to your first question is that yes, I mean we need to be doing this, period, and it's all part of it. That's it. Now, when it comes to your thoughts about people coming in over the border, new immigrants, I'm actually writing a new op-ed um, that is what is the title? Got it. I've got it on my phone. Okay, it is Welcoming Committee.
Is that an op-ed? Where was that? Where can you see that?
Oh,
That's a cool name, by the
oh
way.
no, I'm in the middle of writing it, so I was writing it this morning before
Gotcha,
I talk with you. But the welcoming committee is I
gotcha.
we had an
I like that name.
Airbnb at our house. We for about a year we had an Airbnb, and we had people constantly coming to our house,
Dang,
and it was in the
sorry.
we were used to the doorbell rings, we open the door and they come on in. And I mean, we had black, green, blue people from all places in the United States and abroad coming and staying with us. One stayed for a whole year. It was incredible. That wasn't part of the
Wow,
year that we did it. She actually stayed longer. But uh,
wow.
no, we've just got to be welcoming. And when these people come across the border, instead of having the police over there, I mean, it's fine. We need to control our borders. Absolutely. But part of control is controlling what happens after they get over on the other side, on this side, or get on that side. I mean, we need to have a welcoming committee say, come on over. Now, Germany, when all those people from Syria were flowing over the border, they utilized the expertise of the International Rescue Committee that helped everybody from Syria who was coming in, usually with families, to Germany. They had a welcoming committee. I'm not coming up with anything new. I just learned from the International Rescue Committee, and I went to one of their events in San Francisco and honored them right up, down, right, left, and center. I said, that's what we
Wow.
need to do all over the world. We need to have everybody in a welcoming committee mode. And talk about hospitals. I learned that from nurses in hospitals on ICU units, intensive care units, because those intensive care nurses would meet the patients on gurneys as they came off the elevator from another department or from emergency department. They'd walk into the intensive care room with that gurney patient. They'd help get the patient into
Mm,
the bed. They'd plug them in,
yeah,
hook them up, help them out. And I said, we should do this to everybody in the world. It's just, so, once again, I don't come up
that's a
with these
perfect
ideas.
plan.
It's just, be a part of the welcoming committee, everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. I was swimming earlier this morning,
I
okay, in a
couldn't
swimming
agree
pool.
with you more. You might one of the things I always say is say hi to somebody. Wave at somebody if you don't know 'em. The vibe changes once you have a welcoming uh, committee person. Just that interaction, right?
Well, that's better than me. I wait until they come to me and then I say welcome.
There you go. There you go. Hey, you got your own. I'll look for you, and you'll be an easy one to have do,
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Let's go into this next one here. How do we ensure ethical leadership? And I kind of was asking that earlier on.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Ethical leadership in a global structure.
Damn right. This is where you got to start. Hey, you got to back
The
up.
planning.
If everything in planning, you always have to back up. I've been in meetings where they say we want to build a hospital on that bare lot that has all those flowers growing in it and trees growing in it. And I say, well, that's fine, but let's back up even further than looking at that lot, and let's look at what are the needs of the community. I built a hospital. I was one of the pre-planners and one of the facilitators that helped facilitate this whole hospital design process, and had to look at where the patients were going now and where they were going, who was paying for their health care. I mean, you got to back up and look at everything. Okay, well, there might be 700 women, you know, birthing babies every month, but if they're all some HMO where they have to go up to San Jose, then they aren't going to be coming to your hospital. So you really have to back up, and that's why the first human evolution and the second human evolution are the bookends, and the suspended is in the middle. There's no 7 levels of human evolution. I'm just saying, look, this is just humans. It's not animals. It's not anything else. It doesn't include
Right.
anything else. It's just us humans. Got to look at just us. You got to back up to look at it. One of the things you have to do when you're looking at this human evolution is look at the language that you're using. Look at the tools that you're using to communicate. That's called the language. And that's why
Gotcha.
our methodology has to start with using these words and then bringing the ideas in. Now, the question was about leaders, huh? About leaders. Let's stick to that
Yes.
concept, because when I said before, a a country has to strive to be as good as the best person it hopes to represent. There are so many discussions ahead, an infinite number of discussions that have to occur. What's the definition of the best person? And yeah, let's talk about Martin Luther King and Voltaire and some of the most incredible people who have trod on this planet. But also, let's
Absolutely.
look at some of the people who have been leaders. Were they leaders, or were they absolute wrecking balls? Did they knew what they were doing? Did they even care for the peace of themselves? Start there. You can just look at Martin Luther King. I think he cared for his own peace, and he cared for the peace of his congregation. The guy was a
Hmm.
Baptist minister,
A lot of people
and
have, yeah.
and it's like, does this person care for the peace of their community? So you don't just start with the great people, you start with everybody, and you look at,
Absolutely.
okay, and my friends and my associates and my colleagues are people who care for the peace of the people around them. And that's one of the first things that we have to talk about. Who are the best people that you know? Let's talk about them, and let's bring that to our model, because that's what my 4 templates are. They're tools for being able to create a model for yourself, a model for your relations with people, your relationships with the environment, the local environment, your home environment, the global environment, okay? Because
Yes, sir.
all 4 templates are based on the myself, relations, and environment. So you've got to be able to get to the point where you can bring your definitions of the best person into the discussion, and then start sharing that. And remember, you're not sharing opinions, you're discussing issues. And when you're looking for
Great way to put
leaders,
that.
if you're looking for leaders, you don't want to follow a leader who has invented something like George Wallace, who invented a party. All sorts of third parties have been invented by individual. Andrew Yang recently designed a party, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
calling the Freedom Party. That's
Yeah, I
some
remember
guy.
that.
This guy's no, 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 no. The global American Party has to be planned, pre-planned by us. It has to be pre-planned by you and your brethren. And the ideas need to come forth. These are not leaders. This is not one person saying this
Oh,
is
yeah.
what America needs to do. Because all I'm saying, remember, I'm a pre-planner. I'm not going to get out of my box and start leading a country. No way. And I'm certainly not going to lead anything. you know, I'm not. I don't want to lead anything anymore. And
You're leading
actually,
a pretty good life now, aren't you?
oh, absolutely. And I have a unbelievably wonderful family
No kidding,
and
man.
wife,
I
and
like
I
this. I
mean,
like
just yeah.
I like this comment. Well, and it's not a question. This is a perspective shift because I get it. I mean, this is a completely different way to look at something. in creating that next human evolution, you know?
Good. That's that's good. Um, yeah, it's
Oh, here's a
thank
good
you.
question. Yeah, here's a good question. Is there a specific event or trigger that could push, like the dinosaurs, that was an event, right? That
Yeah.
could push us into the next evolution, human.
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. It's you. And I'm now talking to you, the people in your audience. The event
Gotcha. Yes.
has to be triggered by you. It's got to be something that you grab and you say, wait a minute, this is what I've been talking about. I love it when someone says that. I've been talking, I thought about that. Great. Thank you. you know, it's like me when I come up to a nurse and saying, "Hey, how about this idea where care for peace, huh? I care for your peace." And they sit there and look at you, dumb head. That's what we do all the time. What are you talking about? I loved it. I said,
Isn't it?
"Wow."
Isn't it? Isn't it true how much uh, pride gets in the way in front of good actions happening?
Huh,
If you're
yeah.
working through your own ego, that's going to change what you're talking about. It won't be what that is.
I, good word, pride, because the pride can also be something that we develop with the people that we move ahead with.
Absolutely. I should have said ego.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we all bring our egos to the table. We can't.
Well, I mean, it's there, but you also have the control, right? Right now, everybody's so self-absorbed. We got some evolution to do before we do the evolution, right?
Right, and you brought a thought to my head here because someone asked me a few days
No,
ago. She said, "Why don't you like Donald Trump?" And I said, "Because I don't love him." And I that was just an answer that came out of my mouth, and I'm realizing that wait a minute, I can love anybody. I I can love anybody who's
true.
closer than me. I can love anybody who uh is a human, a dog. I'll love dogs and cats. I'll love birds. I'll
Oh,
love
I love
most
dogs.
animals in the zoo. I mean, I but
Yep.
if I can't I can't like somebody unless there's that emotional connection. And how can I follow someone who I don't have an emotional connection? And in the military, when you're marching and when
Very, very
you're
true.
and when you were following orders, and I worked with a lot of people who have been in Nam, and I've talked to a lot
My
of
dad was
people
in
after. It's just they ended up loving their commanding officer because they trusted them and they understood how they thought. And the ones I met a guy who was actually in one of the platoons next to Cali, who was the man who the major or officer who went into My Lai in Vietnam and massacred a whole village. And the man I
Wow.
talked with was a chief financial officer of a hospital in Woodland, California, and he was absolutely amazed. He said, his troops didn't trust him, but they followed him, and it hurt all of them when it happened because they all joined in on the massacre. And that
Yeah.
that's resonated in my head for a long time. Just if you
There's
don't
been
if you
there's
don't
there's horrible stories that come out of war is horrible anyway, but
right.
there was some brutal stuff going on then.
Yeah, yeah. And if
Like,
you're a
well,
leader,
all the previous real wars have been that way. They've been pretty
yeah,
brutal, you know.
yeah, yeah. I like this question.
Hey, yeah, so do I. I'm glad you saw it. Go ahead.
Are there any current world leaders who align with this vision of human evolution? And I'm going to say they might be, but remember, most leaders have to lead in the moment, and
Yeah,
I think
sure.
it's too far out for most leaders to even talk about the second human evolution that we're planning, because those are just simply not terms. It's up to us to be talking the talk here, because only when they get wind of, well, there are a lot of people talking about it, then they're going to come up with it themselves. And we're going to all sit there
Yeah.
saying, wait a minute, I wrote a book about that. You didn't quote me.
Yeah, that's
Which,
right.
hey,
That's right.
the best change agents in the world are invisible, and that's fine. I will be
Yeah,
glad to be invisible. I'm not going to get
absolutely.
I'm not going to get any Nobel Prize, and I don't want them, because the people who get them are far more deserving than some guy who just plans for his life. There's no
Absolutely,
Nobel
man. That
Prize
is,
for being a planner.
there is not, yeah, unfortunately, there isn't. You got science, you got literature, but you don't have the important stuff. They say there's a
Oh
saying
no,
that says, says, we plan our vacations more than we planned our marriage. And it made me think of that when you were talking about the planning, because it's such a critical thing. There was a guy that right here talked about individual actions contribute to this large scale evolution. And then let's get a final thought from you, and then I'll throw you back in the green room, and I'll do my closing stuff there.
well, if I'm going to give a final thought with the final words from
First
me,
this one. We've been kind of talking
individual
about this, so
actions contribute.
go that and then lead into the final
Yes,
thought. I'm trying to
yes,
be a director right now. This has
you're
been a
doing a
great
great
show,
job.
dude. I mean, I
You're
love
you're
what you're talking about.
well. I love your enthusiasm and your elocution, location. I don't know what.
Ooh,
Pick a
another
word.
great word. I love this. I love that word. I'll take it.
So, how do individual actions contribute to this large scale evolution? And the answer is, you're doing it right now. You tell me. That's what this is.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah,
individual actions. You talk about grassroots. It starts with us, guys. We're the seeds.
it does.
So let's just keep growing and make sure that we nurture each other, and that's what will keep us growing. So my final words. My final words. Uh, the first sentence of my book, and actually in the preface of the book, to care for peace may not be the secret of life, but it is as close to the secret of living there is.
Oh,
I will
wow.
repeat that.
That's powerful.
Allow me to repeat that.
Yes.
To care for peace may not be the secret of life, but it's as close to the secret of living there is.
Mm,
Care
I
for
love
peace,
that, man.
everybody. Care for peace.
All right. I'm gonna say goodbye. Wave everybody goodbye, and that was beautiful. I'm gonna wrap up, and if you want to put your contact information in the chat, while I'm talking about things coming up and all that kind of stuff, go for it, man. Say goodbye, my friend.
Goodbye, my friend.
That guy was awesome, man. That was a lot of fun. I was really curious how that interview was going to go, because of the the discussions I was looking at, or the things that he said or described when I was looking at his information, was excellent, but nowhere near as good as the damn show. He just knocked it out of the park. That was awesome. And thank you guys for all your comments and questions. I think you heard me say that. Oh, here's another one. Great video. Yay! Great discussion. Thank you for this important dialogue. You guys are way too kind. I mean, these guys that come on the show are awesome, and then I just kind of screw around with them and and have some fun with it. With that said, I am going to sign off here, and we don't have a show scheduled tomorrow. We've got all next week booked though as well. I'm going to start opening up the Fridays, because we're just getting too many. I mean, we're getting so many guest requests. Um, Loving the engagement. We just get so many guest requests now, and we're blowing up. We're growing so fast, and I'm just a one man band. I mean, Barbie. I wonder if she came on today. She called me right before we were going on the show, and she always leaves a smiley face if I can find her. I didn't see it, but anyway, Barbie, I'm sure you'll call me in a little bit, producer Barbie, and we'll review the show. But I gotta hats off to Jeffrey. That was a very interesting change. Hey, Jeffrey, look at that's producer Barbie down. Can you see it? Hold on, let me bring it up here. All right. So with that said, as I always say, love you guys, man. Come on, let's keep this thing going. As Jeffrey was talking about, I am on this mission, or we are all coming together to be on this mission to have these conversations, to have a place to be able to grow your own personal space. Which sounds like kind of a funky phrase, but hopefully you guys get what I mean there. I am going to shut off for the day, and I will see you soon. Subscribe. Please like the videos. Barbie, I assume you heard me. Jeffrey set a record today. We got up to like 1,100 views at the peak. And look, we still have 300 there. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Barbie, talk to you in a minute, and Jeffrey, come back, man. That was beautiful. Loved it. And with that, I am out.